Welcome to this special report from Economic Facts. We're coming to you on October 5th, 2025, because a major shockwave has just rocked Pakistan's economy. The IMF, yes, the International Monetary Fund, has just uncovered a massive, and I mean massive, $11 billion discrepancy in the country's trade data. Now, folks, this isn't just some small accounting error. Some are calling it clear-cut data fabrication, and it's raising some very serious questions about the current government's transparency. So how on earth can one single economy have books that tell two completely different stories? That is the $11 billion question we are digging into today. We're going to break down where this huge gap is coming from and really try to figure out what's going on behind the numbers. Let's get right into it. All right, first stop, the core of the whole thing, the allegation of data fabrication itself. This is where the math starts to get, let's just say, a little creative. I just want to be clear about this number. This isn't a rounding error. $11 billion. That's the total gap in trade data that the IMF has flagged in just the last 2 fiscal years. You know, to put that into perspective, that's more than the entire yearly budget of some smaller countries. It is a huge figure that suggests a pretty systemic problem. So where did this black hole of money even come from? Well, it's really a tale of 2 different sets of data. On one side, you've got the numbers from Pakistan Revenue Automation Limited, or PRAL. Their data underreported imports by about $5.1 billion. But then, on the other side, you have the much more comprehensive data from the Pakistan Single Window System, the PSW, which was $5.7 billion higher. You add that all up, and you get an $11 billion chasm between what was reported and what a more reliable system actually shows. So you might be asking, okay, but why? Why would anyone want to mess with these numbers? Well, the alleged motive is to create this illusion of something called a current account surplus. Just think of it like your own bank account. A surplus means you're making more than you spend. So for a country, it means you're exporting more than you're importing. By making your imports look smaller, you can make your whole national budget look a lot healthier than it actually is. But that's a really dangerous game to play, especially when you're a country already dealing with over $130 billion in foreign debt. And that, of course, brings us to the administration that's been overseeing the economy while all this was happening, the Shehbaz Sharif government, which took power back in 2022. And the allegations laid out here, they are serious. It's claimed this whole $11 billion mess happened while Pakistan was under an IMF bailout program. You know, the one time you really need your books to be squeaky clean. The source also alleges a $4 billion gap in huge sectors like textiles was just hidden. And get this, the Ministry of Finance is apparently pushing back against the IMF's demand to revise the data. Why? Well, there's speculation that fixing the numbers could slash the country's GDP growth projections. The source even suggests other crises, like floods, might have been used to draw attention away from these economic red flags. But despite all of this, the official picture being painted is one of progress. For example, a recent survey found that 41% of businessmen feel like the economy is actually improving. But you have to ask, does that optimism really match up with the bigger picture? Well, let's look at another number that might challenge that story. Foreign direct investment, or FDI. This is basically a measure of how confident investors around the world are in your economy. And right now, it makes up a teeny tiny 0.5% of Pakistan's GDP. That's it. It's just a tiny fraction, which suggests that global confidence might not exactly be soaring. So to really get some context here, let's see how the source material compares the current situation to the government that came before it. Now, this table, which is based on the source material, it lays out a really stark contrast. The source points out that the previous Imran Khan government averaged about 5.7% GDP growth. Their approach was described as economic chemotherapy, tough medicine, but transparent. And that's compared to the current administration, which the source claims is dealing with a stagnant economy, all while facing these serious data fabrication allegations. And this chart really just visualizes that comparison. You can see the peak GDP of $356 billion, which the source notes happened under the previous administration, right next to what's described as the current period of stagnation. According to this data, the numbers are painting a picture of 2 very different economic paths. So look, this isn't just about politics or who gets bragging rights over economic numbers. This stuff, whether the numbers are real or not, has severe real-world consequences for the entire country. Think about it like a domino effect. It starts with messing with the data. That first domino to fall, your credibility. International lenders like the IMF stop trusting you. That loss of trust then puts huge pressure on your currency, the rupee. If the IMF loses faith, it could stop the loan payments that are keeping things afloat, and that can trigger widespread economic instability. It is a very dangerous game where one bad move can bring the whole thing crashing down.
And that really leaves us with the most important question of all. If you strip away all the alleged fabrications and the political spin, what is the true state of Pakistan's economy? That's the question that millions of Pakistanis, and frankly the rest of the world, are now asking.